Welcome back to the 6-foot tall wizard tower build. This is the greenhouse part 1, and as always we are going to start with our empty tower shell, but instead of adding the hinges first, I'm actually going to go ahead and cut out the windows, since this build is going to be pretty much all windows on the outside. You guys gave me a lot of suggestions for this build. I have a huge list of ideas and I have a pretty good visual of what I'm going for. It's kind of hard to explain, so I will just have to show you through these videos. Moving back to the tower, I'm drilling the hole for the hinges as usual, and this is the bit size that I use. And the next part of the setup, which is the hinges, is my least favorite part. I have this teeny tiny screwdriver and it's always a difficult task to get that on. So now that we have our empty shell, I'm going to use it as a template for the floors. And for the layout this time, it's going to be 2 full circles. This will give us a lot of room for our plants and still provide us with enough playable space. And then for the windows, I have a big sheet of hard plastic. I started cutting that up, and I'm going to turn these into window frames. And I'll do that in the next video. Welcome back to the Wizard Tower project. This is the greenhouse part 2, and today we are going to build some windows out of the sheet of thick plastic that I had lying around. I just scored it with my X-Acto blade and I can snap it off. And I'm starting off by testing just one set of windows to see how I like it. For the window frames, I'm going to use foam. So I'm using my Proxxon hot wire cutter so that I can cut these evenly. And now that I have completed the windows on the outside, I know that I need to go back and make more of these because I want to add the frames on the inside as well. Speaking of the frames, I'm just using my wire brush to give these a wood texture. This was very tedious, but it really looks quite nice up close. I did have to do a couple layers of white, and in the end you can still kind of see the pink of the foam coming through, but I intend to still add some layers of paint to this after I have built more on the outside. So after I completed this sample window set, I noticed that the plastic kind of had an effect with the super glue, and it kind of looks like the window is foggy. And I love the effect, so I'm going to leave the glass like that. Greenhouses are usually humid anyways. So after I confirmed that I liked the window panes, I went ahead and finished the other 3 sets. And this is where we leave the tower for now. I really love how this turned out. This is exactly how I envisioned the windows to look. So I'll see you all in the next part. Welcome back to the Wizard Tower project. This is the greenhouse part 3. I finished adding the wood frames to the windows on the inside, and now I'm going to add some brickwork to the outside. For these bricks, I use my hot wire cutter, and then I put them in a jar with some rocks to give them quick texture, and I'm just gluing these on with Elmer's glue. The reason why I'm using Elmer's glue instead of hot glue is because I can better place the brick. It takes longer for it to dry. And once I had those all set, I am sealing everything with matte Mod Podge and use my new heat gun to help with the drying process. While I'm waiting for those bricks to dry, I'm going back to the inside and using joint compound to fill in all the little cracks around the window. And this is where we leave the tower so it can dry. This is an inspiration picture of the kind of paint job I want to do on the bricks, and we'll start that in the next video. Welcome back to the Wizard Tower project. This is the greenhouse part 4. And today we're going to paint the outside, starting with a base of brown this time. We are going for a lighter stone look, so I didn't want to base in black. Once the base had dried fully, I'm going in with a very heavy dry brush of a lighter shade of brown, and then a highlight of warm white. This step really brings the bricks to life, which you'll see here after I finish this step. It's already looking so good, but I want to add a bit more variation and colors in the bricks. So I'm going in with a couple other shades of brown, and they're just watered down. Look at what that pop of color has done to the bricks. I am so happy with how this looks. I also tried to do a continuation of the bricks in the gap there where the hinge is, just to hide it a bit better. And now we go in with a final highlight of a vintage white. This same color I'm going to use on the windows. And this is what it looks like after I finish the windows. I've really impressed myself with this stonework. I love how it turned out. And we'll finish the inside next. Welcome back to the Wizard Tower project. This is the greenhouse part 5. And today we're going to finish off our paint job on the inside, starting with the floors, which I'm painting sort of like concrete. Since we are going to fill this room with flowers, I didn't need to get too fancy with the floors. And then for the walls, I want to do the same brick pattern that I did on the outside, where I had the hinge, kind of like a fake stone look. And I went with this so that we don't take up any space on the inside, so that we can have lots of plants. And the walls are going to be covered anyways, so we didn't need to go too fancy with this either. And then I painted the windows with the same vintage white. And now our tower is ready for plants, which I will start in part 6. Welcome back to the Wizard Tower project. This is the greenhouse part 6. This is going to be a long video, but hold on tight because we are getting to plants about halfway through. But first, I'm starting off by making 2 planter boxes out of wooden sticks. I cut them into 3" by 1". Now I have made small planter boxes before, and I thought that gluing these to cardboard would make it more stable, and this definitely helped make the process go by a lot faster. And after a quick paint job, we're going to move on to making our fake dirt, which is baking soda, a little bit of paint, and a little bit of water. I accidentally dumped a whole bunch in here, and you know, mistakes happen, and I just kind of moved my palette to dump some of that out and mixed it up, and it ended up still being quite watery, so I added some more baking soda until I had the desired consistency, and then I can add it to my planter boxes. And once it dries, it will look like fake dirt. And while this is still wet, I'm going to go ahead and add some plants that I had lying around, mostly from the dollar store. I forgot to film that, but here is how that is looking so far. But I wanted to add more, so I'm going to move on to sculpting a couple things out of polymer clay, starting with balm flowers. And when I looked these up, they kind of look like blueberries, so yeah, I kind of made miniature blueberries. But here's how it turned out, and I love how that looks. Then I added the rest of the things I made into the planter boxes, little eggplants and some tomatoes. Those are made out of polymer clay, and I am so happy with how this is turning out so far. This is so cute. I have many more plants to make. This is just the beginning, and it's a good start. And I tried to make a tiny Groot out of vines. He's kind of terrifying. Oh, I might try to redo him with clay. And I also forgot to film this guy. I'm still working on his paint job, but this is the cow plant from The Sims, and he's so cute. See you in the next part. Welcome back to the Wizard Tower project. This is the greenhouse part 7. I finished up with the cow plant and added him to our planter box, and I also made this tiny Junimo and a Korok out of polymer clay, and now I'm going to make a mandrake. With the polymer clay, I only bought a red, blue, yellow, black, and white. And with that, I can make a lot of different colors. But you can also paint polymer clay, so often I end up adding more paint after it is baked, and you can also paint it before it's baked. So that is what I do. Instead of buying a bunch of different colors, I make my own, or I paint it. So back to our mandrake friend. Here he is, hanging out in the pot. Once I have him sculpted, I went in with some watered down brown paint. And here he is before we bake him. Now moving on to the outside, I wanted to add a trellis, so I'm using this plastic grating that I got from the dollar store and just painted it brown. And then I have these vines I'm going to just weave through the plastic, and I also add some tiny flowers and some purple moss. I think this was a lovely addition to the outside. And this was all we were able to get done today. There's still more plants on my list to make, but to recap, we have our little Korok and our tiny Junimo. He's from Stardew Valley, one of my favorite games. And then a little mandrake. And that's all for today. See you next time. Welcome back to the Wizard Tower project. This is the greenhouse part 8. Let's make some more tiny things for our greenhouse, starting with a little sack of seeds. I thought this would be a cute little addition to our greenhouse, and I did permanently glue it to the side of this planter box. Same with the mandrake, which I went over and gave him some more highlights because he was blending into the pot a little bit. And then I sculpted out of paper clay Audrey from Little Shop of Horrors. I let it dry overnight and then I painted it the next day. And I'm really happy with how this paint job turned out. Really, paint does magic. Because I didn't feel like it was a good sculpt, the paint made it a good sculpt. And it's beautiful. I'm gonna put this right next to the window because I want to have its vines kind of going out to the outside. And then to make it blend in a bit better with the wall, I'm just going to glue on some different kinds of flocking. Most of it is reindeer moss that I got from the dollar store. And just going in with some touch-up highlights on this beautiful, beautiful plant. And I'm going to show you what the tower looks like so far. I still have a lot of little things that I need to add. I think Audrey was the last big piece to put in here. So the next video might be the final reveal. We'll see. I hope that you are all enjoying this tower build. I think this one is going to be my favorite. I think that Audrey just solidified that for me. This is the cutest thing I've ever made. Welcome back to the greenhouse tower final reveal, and make sure you watch all the way through. I added a plot twist that you probably weren't expecting. And here's our completed greenhouse tower. I am lost for words. I'm absolutely overjoyed with how this turned out. This is the best thing I've made, hands down. With all the little details, everything I've sculpted, I had such a great time making this. So the planter boxes are the only things that come out. Everything else is attached. But if we play this tabletop, we can remove the planter boxes and give ourselves a lot more space to play with. But that's not all. Let's flip this tower upside down. For a second reveal, I added a little mushroom farm on the bottom of the floor, and the tower is playable upside down. How cool is that? when I was finishing up the tower and adding the mushrooms, I thought, why not make this reversible? And look how cute the mushroom farm is. And the tower actually looks pretty good upside down too. Obviously, there's some things on the roof, but it still looks pretty neat. Let me know what you think, and I hope to see you all in the next tower build.